See the 30-second. Welcome to Christian Warrior Training and the Righteous Savages.
Got it.
Right. We are all here together on one channel. We had a huge hiccup with we were originally trying to do it on Substack because we were introducing the Righteous Savages Substack, where if you're not following them, you should be, because they have great stuff over there. But we had to move it to YouTube because the Substack live stream just isn't mature enough yet. So we'll just leave it at that. So I know I got everybody's emails and everything about anticipating this. I hope you're here. We put out the link to everybody. Thank you for showing up. First, I want to introduce the Righteous Savages. We've got John Wheaton and Dave Kemp, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and kind of tell you who they are and what their mission is.
Yeah. So my name is John Wheaton, and about 2 years ago, year and a half, myself and Dave Kemp, Dave owns a gun range in Southern Illinois, and I would frequent that, being a gun enthusiast. And as we deepened our friendship over the last 5-6 years, we realized that there was a big gap in what society was doing with a couple of things: masculinity, being able to be a protector, and just demonizing what an actual Christian warrior, for lack of a better term, would be. So we decided, hey, we're going to try and help fill that gap with our voices, and really just encourage people to stand up for what they believe. Our kind of slogan is "Act like you believe," and that's straight out of well, I just lost the verse. Wow, what a Christian I am, Dave. Give me that. So
you're the Christian
James
I am.
2:18.
I know it's in the Bible somewhere. Let me find it though.
It's James. Yeah, it's James. Sorry, 2:18. So
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all coming back now.
I tell you what, not only the hiccups with technology, but the hiccups with my brain this morning have been absolutely insane. So
There's a battle going. Did you see real quick the Sean Ryan episode with Brett Cooper?
Yes.
I've watched about 30 minutes of it.
He was talking about her brother that had died and the afterlife, and all of a sudden the lights flickered in the studio a couple times. They're like, I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, I'm not saying that's going on right now, but if there's some weird stuff happening today.
Right. So, but really the whole reason that we wanted to do this is we're both firearms enthusiasts. We're both instructors. Dave has a long history of police. I'll let him talk about that. Now, I was in the Air Force for 12 years and just been, involved with my faith and firearms for so long, and just the idea of self-defense, that it was like, let's marry these things together and give something for people that are like-minded to go to get some quality training. We do a lot of firearms training at the range, and then we do a lot of online content, and that's kind of where we're at. And we just recently branched out into Substack, and myself and Dave have written some articles on that. And that's really part of what we're promoting today, but also having a deeper conversation about some threats in the world. But I'll let Dave kind of take over from there.
Real quick, we are going to talk about an article that you guys wrote entitled "America Under Siege." And it was a wonderful article about all the threats that we're going to face. And I just want to, before we talk today, because Dave is like a mirror image of me in history. It's hilarious. We did exact same things. Yeah. It's if you love Jesus and you love guns, you should subscribe to the Righteous Savages. All right, Dave, you're up, buddy.
All right. I guess this is the worst part about instructors, when you have to talk about yourself and your history, and because it always comes off sounding like, you don't want to sound like you're bragging about anything, but I think it is important at some point for people to just understand where you're coming from. So just as far a history lesson anyway, as far as my background, I started off my law enforcement career in the dead center of Illinois in a town called Decatur in
Oh yeah.
1994. So eons ago. Worked there for 4 years, and then I moved down to Southern Illinois to a town called Carbondale, and I worked at Carbondale PD for 25 years. And so, in my 29-year law enforcement career, I did a lot of everything, just like Keith did. Worked patrol for about 17 years of my career was midnights. So a lot of street patrol. I was a training officer at our department for several years and was in charge of our firearms curriculum, building new curriculum and training guys and doing quals and all that kind of stuff. Also along at the same time, I was a SWAT team guy and did that for 25 years. And a couple of different, I guess, agencies as well. We have multi-jurisdictional teams. There's a lot of guys police departments kind of jump from their own department to multi-jurisdictional teams, and it's pretty common. So regardless, I did SWAT stuff for about 25 years, and about 11 years ago, we opened a gun range called Tombstone Gun Range. So if you're listening to this right now, not watching it, and you're on a computer and you want to check that out, please check out tombstonerange.com to kind of see what we have going on there. And we started training civilians a lot with concealed carry classes. We were still training cops, doing that thing a lot as well, but really started getting into the whole training business alongside my law enforcement career. And the entire time that's going on, I was a Christian ever since I was probably a sophomore in high school. But in my law enforcement career, I was never very outspoken about it. I just kind of had the belief of everybody can believe what they want to on their own, and I'm not going to push my beliefs on anybody else. And if nothing else, I really regret over my career not just speaking up about my faith and my opinions and what I believe in. It doesn't mean you have to beat somebody over the head with it. But I think a lot of times people they're actually wanting that information and they bring it up in conversation. And if you fail to capitalize on that, you're just wasting an opportunity. So like John said a couple years ago, and it was through some training we were doing, and we were talking about what it takes to kind of be able to use deadly force in a life and death scenario. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of this combination of, well, we're trying to be good people, we're trying to do the right thing, but at the same time, there has to be something inside of you that has the ability to do savage stuff.
Yep.
Horrible things. And sometimes we don't want to talk about that side of it. And we definitely don't want to try to glorify that, but there has to be this combination. And some people call it, say, 50-50. Like you need to be half guardian and half warrior. And what we try to say is you need to be 100-100. You need to be all 100% guardian and 100% the ability to do savage things. And so that's what we're trying to do right now with our training, our firearms training, our classes. We're trying to motivate people to not be afraid of their faith, not be afraid to speak up when the time arises, but because you're actually not shoving this down people's throat. God says, He'll open up your heart when you're ready to hear this stuff. And when people mention it, they're actually ready to hear it. And so it's not that difficult to talk about your faith. And I don't want to water down what our faith means either. A lot of people say that, like, oh, I'm strong in my faith. Well, what faith? Faith in crystals, faith in tarot cards. Like, what does that even mean? Well, our faith is Jesus Christ is the King of the universe. That's the faith we're talking about. And we want to share that with people. And we have had so many people open up. Like, thank you for sharing this. They're interested in continuing and learning and building their Christianity. And man, that's more important than anything to us. That's really, if you think about anything you do in your life, like what's the most important thing? Like, well, if you really believe God and Jesus is real, then just like John said, you got to act like you believe. So that's kind of what we're all about. We want you guys to check us out and share what's going on. So you can check out the range. You can check out Righteous Savages, get a little bit more information. I've talked for like 10 minutes now about me. So we'll keep the show going here.
That's awesome. Dude, I love that. I love that story, man. Look at the comments are filling up, man. There's a lot of people hitting the comments. Sorry, I haven't even had a chance to look at them yet. I just found the button. I want to thank Righteous Savages for sponsoring this, for using their system. And I got to tell you, totally underrated YouTube channel. They like their quality in the stuff that they put out is phenomenal. But the YouTube algorithm, it just isn't favoring them for whatever reason. And like, if you're watching from my channel, I would really appreciate you if you subscribe to them. And if you're on Righteous Savages and you never heard of me, then do me a favor and hit subscribe. If you love Jesus and you love guns, you're in the right place. We are here today to talk about two things. John wrote an article, America Under Siege, and I want him to talk about that because it's super important. And then I put it out an alert about basically I put out an intel report about an imminent threat to hospitals around the country. And we're going to give you an update and a follow-up to that and where we got the info, how it comes about, what has happened since then, and kind of what everybody needs. It's all going to tie together because I think we're all working on similar things. So, John, can you take us down the road on that article you wrote and some of the information that people need to know?
Yeah. So this stems from back a few weeks ago. Actually, a couple months ago, I got invited to a closed briefing, and I'm going to do a quick plug. We are brand sponsors for Vertex, and it was sponsored by Vertex. So if you guys are interested in tactical gear, bags, or clothes, or anything like that, go check out vertex.com and hit them up with our discount code Savages15. Get 15% off of your entire order. But that's all the promoting I'm going to do. Wanted to promote them because they're the reason that I got this information. So this was a briefing with Sarah Adams. For those of you that don't know who Sarah Adams is, she's a former CIA targeter, and she ran down the big thing that she did is she ran down the terrorists that were responsible for the Benghazi attack. If you guys are aware of the Benghazi attack, 13 Hours was the movie that was about it. And then she was there with Dave Benton, also known as Boone. That's his call sign. He was one of the 6 CIA contractors that defended that complex and compound in that harrowing terrorist attack. And so I was privileged enough to be able to go to this briefing, and it was rather eye-opening because it was talking specifically, the threats that we're talking about are in the vein of what is changing in the world of terrorism. We think of terrorism, we think of 9/11, we think of the tactics that were used even in the Benghazi attack, and we're not seeing the big picture of how the shift what is shifting in the world of terrorism, and how all of these groups that have had differences. So this is a radical religious caliphate, or whatever you want to call it, that they have had differences of opinion between Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Hezbollah, and all of these other organizations, all of these other Islamic terrorist organizations, and now they are uniting under one flag. And she really lays that out. A couple episodes of the Sean Ryan podcast she has been on, actually I think 4 now, and she also does his intel brief that comes out every week. But very, very well known in the intelligence community, and very respected too, even with people that don't align with her political ideology. They still respect her as a CIA targeter. She's very well known and very respected. And then Dave, obviously, he was a Marine Scout sniper, but now works with Sarah in the intel side. So that's kind of laying the groundwork, and then we can get into all of the details of what that is, what that all looks like, and what it looks like for you as Americans, people that go to church, that go to, you just have everyday lives. You want to be able to take your kids to school in peace, but there are some things that we really need to dive into and really need to keep an eye on, because the threat's real. This has been coming from the last 4 years with a completely open border, and that has really put some jet fuel on the level of threat that is out there.
Yeah, I think what you're hitting on the head. If for my followers, you'll remember I put out an intel bulletin about some pre-attack surveillance that was done by 3 Afghan males at a mega church in Southern California. If you go, I'm going to be in Jack Hibbs's church in Southern California. I think May 31st, somewhere around there. I'll put the information out later. But the last time I talked, we organized the churches, got them on Signal, got them into groups. And sure enough, when the 3 men came in and started videoing and asking questions like, do you live stream? Do you, like, what's your security look like? I mean, questions like this. They put it out on the Signal chat. Be aware of these guys. Well, one of the people on the Signal group used to be a counter intel expert for State Department. And he pulled that info and just open sourced it and found connections with one of the men to the Taliban, where you have pictures of him posing with the Taliban in Nuristan, Afghanistan. And, we were able to put that information out really quick to everybody. I'll be at Jack Hibbs's church again, and we'll debrief that incident and talk about it. And I'm hoping that church, I know they're probably watching. I hope you guys show up so you can talk a little bit about it, because I think it's super important. But that stuff that Sarah Adams talks about, we've been talking about it on Christian Warrior we've been talking about it for 2 years now.
Yeah.
There is somebody's putting information out about Virginia. That we did put information out that there was a similar incident in Fairfax, Virginia. The intelligence group from Fairfax, I talked to them. They said they looked into it, and they said it was it happened, that people came and looked and were documenting security, but they weren't a threat. I didn't have good, Dave, you've been a cop for a long time too. The way it was coming out, I was like, I don't feel good about this. I hear what you're saying, but it's a typical liberal agency. I think, Dave, was your agency pretty liberal? I know mine was.
It was kind of down the middle of the road. It wasn't.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, it wasn't like your pretend police agency that you've got out there. Was it River City?
No, River City. If you're not following River City, California Police Department on Facebook, yes, Instagram, and Twitter, you're missing out. I am the guy behind it. It's hilarious. Look, I know everybody's furiously looking for River City, and don't judge me, please. All the Christians out there, I'm fighting a good fight. Yeah, my agency, our jury pool was Oakland and Berkeley. So it kind of gives you an idea of and so I remember one year we had, I want to say an 800% increase in murders. It was huge. And they're like, well, we only had 2. And I'm like, I went to 6. I went to 6 murders that year. How did you where are you getting 2? And they would lie all the time. And I'm not saying that Fairfax is lying. If they're watching, I am not saying that you're lying. I just didn't feel good about the info. So if you're still in Fairfax, I would still run with, there's people that want to do harm to churches. ISIS has called and said they want their people to attack churches. Mm-hmm. I suggest you take that seriously. Let's roll into what she said, dude. I think let's talk about what she said, because I think it's super important, and we can roll into the hospital issue.
So the Al-Qaeda strategy has really shifted to it's kind of shifted from the the one-off type terrorist events to more of it's just a new strategy. So we saw this in the October 7th attack, swarming attacks. Some would use the term blitzkrieg type attacks that overwhelm the first responders, and they're able to do a lot more damage when they can overwhelm first responders. Some of the other things that they've talked about is attacks where they have almost a false attack to draw in the first responders, any kind of people that would be a help, and then they attack again with a larger attack to take and overwhelm those people. I don't know how many in the audience understand what that would mean. I know that you guys do for sure. This is the kind of stuff. If you don't have first responders, then if you don't have first responders in 9/11 who gave their lives for a noble cause, thousands of those people don't get out of that building. There's thousands more dead. And so that's where these things start to exponentially move up in the threat level, is that you're going from maybe a couple dozen casualties to hundreds or even thousands of casualties if you can take out the first responders. So that is something that they're working on. And this all stems, to give a little bit of background real quick, Osama bin Laden's son, Hamza, is the leader of what they call the Islamic Army now. And this is the unification of all of these different sects, or, in the Christian faith, we call them denominations, but we're not violent like they are. But this is kind of where they come in. They have different worldviews, but they have decided, hey, to be able to take out the big boy, the United States, we want to be able to unite under one flag. And so, you guys saw the attack in, I think it was New Orleans on New Year's Day with the truck, and he had an ISIS flag. That's kind of a misnomer, and that's a misdirection. They're using this to misdirect. Another thing that's changing is they don't necessarily want to come out. ISIS was always big about coming out and claiming that a terrorist attack or a killing was them. And they've actually changed from not wanting to do that as much, because they don't want to draw as much attention. They want to just be able to do the terrorist act and move on to the next thing. And so this is a very, 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 very dangerous thing. They want to target infrastructure. They want to target places where people go. So churches are a really, really ripe target for two reasons. It's an ideological attack. So they're attacking a faith that they hate. So Jewish synagogues and Christian churches are going to be really a prime target. Then there's other things like shopping malls and places where people gather, schools and government buildings, all of these kind of things. It's a little bit harder with government buildings because of all of the security. And side note, why don't we have that level of security at our schools? I have a personal connection with that because my wife's a school teacher, and locally our police departments are doing a pretty good job. But I think nationally there needs to be a conversation about like protecting schools against both mass shooters and potential terrorist attacks, because the things that are precious to us, we guard with men with guns. Or at least they're precious to themselves, so politicians and banks and all this other stuff. So why don't we do this with schools? And I have some theories on that, but we won't get too big into that. But it is also, they've been using the illegal immigration breakdown that we've had, as I mentioned earlier, for the last 4 years to bring in a lot of
An army.
An army essentially. And I know one of the things that was mentioned that's not in the article, that was actually on the last episode that Sarah Adams was on with Sean Ryan literally earlier this week, was that they were talking about how they have requested multiple times for 10,000 trained jihadis. So there's been 2 or 3 requests for that. The first 2 they've already trained. And when you see some of their new training videos, I don't have them to show today, the equipment that they're using may look really familiar to people because it's our equipment. It's the equipment we left over in Afghanistan. They're using AR-15s. They're using our body armor. They're using all of this American equipment now.
Our training.
And the other thing, and this is another thing that was brought up in this, is these training facilities that we did not dismantle in Afghanistan are becoming a prime training grounds for these jihadis. And think of it, now they have American level training facilities that we did not dismantle. Well, that means that they're getting a higher level of training.
Yeah.
Dave can speak to, like, as an instructor, if you have a better place to train, if you have a facility that's actually designed to train instead of just a bunch of tents set up in the desert, the level of training you're going to be able to get is going to be much higher, exponentially higher. So
some of these videos, these training videos that these ISIS guys are putting out, they released the videos of them like climbing on the monkey bars out in a desert somewhere, and that was supposed to look like they were really getting ready for a fight. Now it looks like they're on an American range. They're not, but they've got all the American equipment. They look like they've been trained. And honestly, the bad side of YouTube and social media is anybody can jump on the internet and learn how to run a rifle and a handgun and learn some tactics. And I think in the old days, they would just, teach each other in the sandbox overseas somewhere, and it just all looked goofy. And the only thing they had going for them was the fact that they were suicidal and willing to die for their cause. But now the level of training is really going up. And I think the cool thing about what Keith and Christian Warrior, so everybody that's on the Righteous Savages channels right now, if you have not checked out Keith Graves, a Christian Warrior, please check him out. He, especially if you're involved in your church in any way whatsoever, and you're thinking about security and kind of how to set that up, how to operate it, please go to Keith, all of his stuff, because he has got just loads and loads of good practical information and training, and a lot of it, most of it, is absolutely free. So please go check that out, because the first step in all of us being prepared is actually believing that this stuff could really happen. If you don't think it would ever happen, then you're just spinning your wheels. You're wasting your time. And as me and Keith, as being cops for decades, I know that makes us sound old, but
decades of experience.
we went out every day. You just assume today's the day. Today's the day that something really horrible is going to happen, and I've got to be ready for it. And it sounds like, to the outside person, that sounds kind of paranoid. Like, you really think that in the next 5 minutes somebody's going to jump out of a car and shoot you?
Yes.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I do. As a matter of fact, there's a saying that said, be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody you meet. And that sounds kind of harsh, but for cops, it's absolutely the way you thought, until you find out through your, investigation, or through just how you deal with people, that, okay, this is not a threat. Now I can act more like a normal person. But you've got to assume, if you're on a church security detail, you can't just be out in the parking lot on Facebook enjoying the sun and drinking your coffee and like, oh, this is fun. You have to assume, I need to be looking out. These people could be driving up the road right now. So really trying to convince people, and I think the way we convince it is by doing things like this, by sharing information that Sarah is putting out, by sharing all these just news reports that Keith is just slamming out every day on Substack and YouTube and all his information. We've got to share that with people so they really understand these things are really going on. I don't know if it was June or July last year, Keith, in Russia, Dagestan or something, where some militants, and I'm not sure what terrorist group it was, but they shot up several police stations, a synagogue, killed a priest. They just burned half a town down with like 15 dudes. And that was
it was ISIS. It was ISIS that did that one, and they've been hitting Dagestan hard. And like, Dave, I don't know, you could probably back me up on this, but like, I've been telling everybody that you have to train like there is no cop coming, because like, I've been working when 911 has gone down for 24 hours. If you called 911, there was no answer. Or I've been there where the entire radio system has gone down, and we're now on cell phones trying to talk. Well, what happened? That we know a day is coming where either we're going to have an October 7th style attack where they're going to kill a lot of first responders. Like, if we have an active shooter, let's say in a city like San Francisco, or even they're actually targeting mid-sized cities right now. So let's say Boise, Idaho, where I'm at right now. All right. Let's say Boise, Idaho, town of 230,000. Okay. They can handle one active shooter. They cannot handle two. But if they hit every hospital, although we have 3 main hospitals, and they hit all of those at the same time, there's going to be at least one hospital that's going to get no response because there's nobody to go. And, you just need to, like, so my friends that work in hospitals, we'll talk about the hospital threat in a minute, but I've told my friends that work in a hospital, take your gun to work. And they're like, oh, we're prohibited from carrying guns at the hospital. And I'm like, you're only prohibited if they find out. Like, so figure out how you're going to conceal it so you don't lose your job. But if those jihadis come, you can barricade in a room. And when they come in, you can kill that guy, take his gun, and then go get some more, right? Just be wary that like you look like an active shooter when you come down the hall, and some other CCW shooter's going to get you. So just start thinking about that in your head. And I know a lot of Christians, they're like that will look at me and say that will never happen. Bro, it's happened all over the world continuously. Look at Nigeria. The most Christians killed in the world, 80% die in Africa. They are being slaughtered by ISIS-K, Fajui, I can't remember pronounce the name, these herdsmen that they're really just Islamic extremists. Al-Shabaab, you name it. Right now in the DRC and the Democratic Republic of Congo, they just kidnapped a bunch of sisters from a nunnery. I mean, they are killing people constantly. And you've had a good life in America. You've had a wonderful life. They want to come take it from you, and it's coming. And you need to prepare. I mean, Dave, what do you think about like just law enforcement being able to handle this stuff?
One thing that really scared me was this October 7th attack in Israel, because it was so successful, number one, and it was so different than the typical Muslim attack. You know, and Keith, you've probably been to these trainings. I've been to a lot of explosive trainings. I was an explosive breacher, been through that training. Anyway, what you learn is over just almost, decades of time, that Muslim terrorists, their number one go-to was always explosives. They wanted a truck bomb, a car bomb. They wanted to hijack a plane, crash into something. They have this thing for explosives because it's just such a big, scary impact and a deadly impact. And it's got the visual is crazy. To see what happened on October 7th, not really have any of that, I think they noticed man, that was so successful. We could do that anywhere. And it's scary on the fact that not only it doesn't have to be just ISIS or Al-Shabaab or some terrorist organization. It could be Antifa. It could be anybody that's anti-Trump that is losing their mind. It could be any group of individuals that decide we're going to do this. You don't have to have bomb making skills. You don't have to hijack an airplane anymore. You don't have to do that stuff. And as cops, we always sit back and think like the criminals do. Like, I wonder how somebody's going to rob the next bank or gas station. And we also go through these games of, I wonder what the next terrorist attack would look like. And for us, we're like, well, how about if you just get 20 of your buddies with AR-15s and just go run around town and shoot up schools and churches? I mean, that is the most ridiculously easy thing that anybody could do. And then you 100x that in 100 different towns. I mean, it is so ridiculously easy for something crazy like this to happen. And it's why it is so important. And this isn't just up to cops and the military to save the world. This is up to all the civilians watching to step up their game and be like, you know what? I need to be somebody that can be prepared to maybe help stop something like this if God forbid it ever happened. And if we had 50 million people make that decision, we'd have a pretty locked down country to help at least stop those things if they do start. So people really have got to pay attention and decide what your involvement is going to be to help stop this.
Dude, I want to go back just for a minute. Dude, you're absolutely right, but I want to go back for a minute and talk about our training. Like we mentioned that we were training these guys, right? And I remember before the Arab Spring, go way back. I can't remember when that was, but just like a year before the Arab Spring, I was an instructor, or not instructor, but like an evaluator for a testing site at Urban Shield. And Urban Shield is a 54-hour SWAT exercise. If you're a participant, no sleep, just 54 hours of missions, and it's very, very grueling. And I've been a participant multiple times, but now I was the evaluator for this site, and we invited other countries to come in. And I remember I won't mention the place because I'm not sure like we're supposed to be involved with them or not, but this Arab country came in with their SWAT team, and they had a special forces like guide. And I went over to the 18 series guy, and I was like, hey man, like, are you training these guys and stuff? He's like, yeah. And I could tell like he didn't want to be there. And I'm like, hey man, your guys, I don't want to tell them anything because I feel that they're going to use whatever I say against our people. And he's like, you're absolutely right. I have no idea why they were there. It pissed me off. And I was like, but we had like France come, and their raid team came. It was really cool to talk to them. An Israeli commando unit came. It was really cool to interact with them. But these guys show up, and I was just like, they're like, do you have anything for him, Sarge? I'm like, no. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, you go do whatever you're going to do. I am not going to say anything else. And I quickly called all the other evaluators like, hey, this team's coming. Like, why did nobody give me a heads up? I didn't know they were here. Like, don't tell them anything. And then sure enough, the next year they were killing all their people, in the air. I mean, it was just ridiculous, dude. Our government is its own worst enemy when it comes to equipping and training these people, because they come back to bite us, somewhere along the line. Sorry, Dave, you making some great points, but I forgot about that. And I wanted to get that out real quick. What else do we need to know, John, out of that information that she gave? You're muted, by the way. I can see your little mute button.
Yep, got it.
I
got
like
it.
StreamYard, dude. This is a great system.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. So there is a couple of things, and some of this stuff is going to be familiar. We're obviously always going to have cells of terrorists. Now, the difference is there's not a lot of communication between these cells, and they may have marching orders, but they're also allowed to operate with anonymity from their, I guess, command structure. So if they're planning an attack and they're going in to do an attack, then they see that the attack is not necessarily a good idea, be it there's extra security or things just aren't right for them to get the attack to be as effective as they want, they can actually divert to other areas. Their whole goal is to just enact this terrorist, to enact terrorism on people so that we live in fear. Because think about this scenario, and we've talked to Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman about this, and he's big. We actually had him on our podcast. I think it was one of our first episodes on a podcast like a year and a half ago, and he told us about a scenario, and this has been in my mind because I have young children. I have a 12, 9, and 4-year-old. They ride buses to school, and my wife's a school teacher. So this is a very, very big issue. These type of swarming attacks are tiered attacks, and the tiered attacks can be over a couple of days. You look at, think about if multiple terrorist cells decided to just attack one school bus and kill everybody inside, blow it up, do whatever. And they did that in multiple areas across. We have a huge country and a lot of rural areas, and you do it in both rural areas and urban areas. And you do that over 3 or 4 days. Well, the second day, people are going to be freaking out. The third day, nobody's going to leave their house.
Yep.
And it's going to shut the country down. Well, we saw what COVID did to the economy and everything. And I don't want to act like that's the most important thing, but that is a very big thing for how our country operates and how, you have the creature comforts that we all enjoy. You shut down the infrastructure of this country and everybody lives in terror. I mean, that's a dangerous and scary situation. The other thing is that this new vest technology, and I know you're probably aware of this, Keith, in that they are actually making new suicide vests that are hard to detect unless you have some of the new technology in that airports have, where you can actually do and I forget what they're called off the top of my head, but a metal detector will not detect these because there's no working metal parts inside of these vests. They work off of a biochemical system. Even the plunger that they use to set it off is think of like mixing two chemicals together, like like JB Weld or something, but there's a chemical reaction. Everybody had science class when they were in school, and you mix the two wrong chemicals together and you get an explosion. And that's kind of what they do for the ignition of these vests. And they're very, very hard to detect. One thing she said is they know that there are 100 in the country currently. They know this. And so that's scary. And they can also be converted they're really meant for small enclosed areas because they release a caustic gas when they go off, and it will kill everybody in there, whether from the explosion or from the gas. It will kill everybody in a small enclosed area. But they can also be outfitted with the traditional things like projectiles, BBs, balls, all of that kind of stuff that typically goes into a suicide vest, basically turning them into a human claymore. But that is really two of the big things that to be aware of, and they're going to exploit our tactics. They have been studying us for 25 years since we went into Iraq and Afghanistan. They have been studying our tactics. They know our tactics. They know our police tactics too. They're actually training their own people using our tactics. But also, if you know the tactics and the operational layout of your enemy, it gives you a great advantage when you're planning these style of attacks. So they also want to divert. So diversionary attacks, and that goes into what I was talking about earlier of drawing in your first responders and taking them out so that you can then go full blown with the October 7th style attack and overwhelm an area. So yeah, it's
and here's some John, some other common themes when it comes to terrorist attacks that we've learned over the years. Some of this came from Sarah as well, but essentially the folks associated with these terrorist groups, when they start an attack, their goal is kill every living human being that's anywhere within miles of them or be killed. There's not going to be a deal where they go in and shoot 5 people and then kill themselves and end it. They are going to keep fighting until they kill everybody or they get killed.
Yep.
Also, something to keep in mind is this is kind of like what we learned from Columbine, where you get a couple school shooters going to school and then everybody surrounds the school and we just wait for the SWAT team, and because it's very dangerous. Well, with terrorist attacks, like if you remember the Kenya Mall shooting, I don't know, a decade or so ago or longer, where a bunch of terrorists went into a shopping mall. It was a pretty modern shopping mall, something like you see in America. And same thing, they were there for days. They were in this mall for days, shooting, killing, raping, burning the place up. And the concept is you cannot wait. And you think, well, I'm just a dude with a gun, in the parking lot of my mall. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm not saying a one-man show with a, Smith & Wesson M&P is going to go kill 20 terrorists. But the concept is this: you can't just let them build up, all their defenses and stay there for weeks and months or whatever. So if you're on a police department SWAT team or church security team and something's going on in your church, you got to take action right now. It actually gets worse. In our mind, we think it's way too dangerous and we can't go in right now, or we can't take action right now because it's just, I don't know. But to me, I think of as God put me in this position to do something, and I hope he's going to protect me. And I think I'm here for a reason. And we have learned over history that quick action, quick, decisive, forceful action, that's what really stops these things from becoming these huge, enormous October 7th deals. So it's got to be quick, decisive action right from the beginning. And just keep that in mind. The longer we wait to do something, it's actually going to get harder and harder, and more good people are going to get killed. So we got to think about not hesitating.
So one of the things I like bringing up to people, Dave brings up a great point. Dave and I have been so lucky to train so many cops, and some of those have been in some real righteous shootings. And like for me, my specialty was to train narcotics detectives. And like narcotics detectives get in a lot of shootings because they're buying drugs and they don't know it's the cops, and they end out trying to rob a cop and they end up getting shot. I always like to ask in my class who's been in a shooting undercover, and then somebody will raise their hand. I'm like, what gun were you using? And it's always a Walther PPK, a Glock 43, like something tiny, right? Or a snub nose, whatever. And I'll be like, what do you wish you had?
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had a Glock 34, which is the long slide Glock, with an optic and a flashlight. I wish I had a Staccato XC, the $5,000 handgun. I wish. It's always a big handgun with big mag capacity, right?
And 700 rounds of ammunition.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a great video that we showed in our firearms instructor school where it was, I think it was Huntington Beach down in SoCal. It was a motor cop and he rolls up on a bank robbery and immediately comes under fire. And he does what we train motor cops to do. He drops the bike, hides behind the bike, and he starts returning fire. And the view is from the police helicopter. The ghetto bird is circling. And you see him just mag dump, do a perfect mag, exchange. Mag dumps again, does it again, drops it, and goes. And you could see from the helicopter, the position was so perfect. The look on his face was like, oh no. He had a 45, he had a SIG 220, and he had what 8 rounds per mag. And he blew through 24 rounds, 25 rounds, and like that. I mean, it was probably like 20 seconds. You can tell the guy was practicing. And they interviewed him afterwards, and he switched handguns right away. And then he was one of the, now you see cops with 3 mags. I mean, that was the advent where I always had a war bag. In my war bag, I had 6 AR mags. I had 4 pistol mags, and I had a flashbang. I had smoke. And if something happened, I threw that over and just went in. You need to have the same attitude. What gun are you carrying? I don't leave the house with anything less than a Glock 19 which is a mid-size 9mm that holds 16, 17 rounds. I've got a light and I've got an optic, and I train regularly. I just went to the range yesterday with my neighbor. He wanted Josh, I hope you're watching. I think he does. And we went up and we were training just pistol long range, because he wanted to learn how to shoot long distance. And so we were engaging targets 600-700 yards, to show that we can do it. You need to make sure when you leave the house, you've got a gun that is appropriate to be in the gunfight. If you woke up this morning and you realized you were going to be in a gunfight and you were like, oh, I need to go to the gun store and get something better, then that's what you need to do right now and figure it out.
Yeah, I tried in my classes. We do a lot of civilian concealed carry classes, and man, over the years, I'm just getting more and more disgruntled at watching what people bring to these classes for their own self-defense, what they bring to defend their families, their wives, their kids. So I try not to be the mean guy, the mean instructor, but I want to make a point to people, what do you do?
Oh no,
we lost him.
YouTube did not want to hear right at the climax. What were you going to say, brother?
Okay.
YouTube, right now, our FBI agent is smiling.
Yeah, I'm going to wait for him to come back in. I know what he was going to say, though, is these people that show up with these, these 22 revolvers that are single action to do their concealed carry. And it's like, you guys have no concept of what this is. You might as well not actually get this license if you're not going to actually take it seriously. And it's sad because we need more people that are trained and aware and being situationally aware out in public. I have a few rules, and I know you probably implement these rules too. When I go to a restaurant, I want to sit facing the main entrance or multiple entrances if I can. If I'm with my wife and kids, I'm always scanning to see, how do I get them out of here? I've started having conversations with my 12-year-old of, how do you react if somebody walks in here with a gun? Not with my 9-year-old, not with my 4-year-old, my 12-year-old. He's been out to the range. He is, honestly, I trust him more than I do some of the cops we've trained with a firearm, because he's so safe. But it is important as parents and members of families, have these conversations with your wife, have these conversations with your kids. But we see so many people that just don't take this stuff seriously. They'll sit and consume content like this, all day long, but they won't go spend 30 minutes or an hour out at the range once a week to really get proficient with their weapon. And that's really the disconnect, I think, is that people just, Dave says this as well, and I don't want to steal. Oh, there he is. He's back. So
hey, I'm back.
All right, Dave. Welcome back, buddy.
I finished your thought about it, and you with the revolver, 22 revolver that people bring out and just don't take it seriously at all. So, but yeah, we see this all the time, and people just don't want to they don't. I don't know if it's that they don't want to or they just don't understand. I think that's probably more of the reality is they don't understand the reality of the threats that are out there, that we brush up against people that would have no problem killing us if the opportunity presented itself on a daily basis. I think we had one of the top 10 most wanted in America at the time. It stopped on the interstate just outside of Marion, where we live, Interstate 57, which is kind of a main vein that goes from north to south in Illinois and Kentucky and all those places. But yeah, so that those threats are real, and you don't know what day or what is going to happen to you when you start your day. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah, we say this a lot. Your experiences drive your beliefs. If you've never had an encounter with anything bad happening in your life, you're probably not going to believe that anything could ever happen. It's always the people that come to our classes that have had a previous sexual assault or previously robbed or in an abusive relationship. Those people understand this is real. I could really be in danger any day now, and they seem to take it serious. And the people that have not really had those experiences, that's our job to share this information and get it out to them so they start to understand, like, man, yeah, I haven't dealt with it myself, but I'm seeing all this evidence, I'm seeing all this training and videos, and they will start to understand, hopefully, if we can share and provide and train them with that information.
You're absolutely right. I want to address a couple things in the comments. So first off, kudos to a guy in the comment. I carry a full-size Glock 31 with Spear Gold Dot is my everyday carry. All right. Spear Gold. There you go. Put it up there. Spear Gold Dot is phenomenal ammo. People pick ammo based off what some YouTuber says, right? Oh, this reverse, hollow point that's 95 grains is perfect. That's awesome. How many people has it killed? Right. Like there's some significant testing that goes on for law enforcement to carry rounds. And right now, Spear Gold Dot is kind of the gold standard and has been stacking bodies like wood at this point. Right.
I agree with Keith too. We had actually Spear came to Decatur PD years ago with some ballistic gel, and it was their demo, but they brought, 20 other brands of ammo, and they just put it head to head, against, the Black Talons and the Hydra Shocks and everything out there. And it did very well. So the Spear ammo, at least what we shot, is what's called bonded ammunition. Mm-hmm. The copper jacket isn't just stuck on the outside of a piece of lead. It's chemically bonded together. So when you shoot through windshields and you shoot through barriers, the whole projectile stays together. And so I agree with Keith. It's a very high quality round for sure.
And there's another comment about truck guns, and somebody asked, can you talk about trunk guns? Okay, so the pros and the cons. The cons: somebody's going to steal your rifle. Okay, like that's number one, right? First and foremost. So I never like to victimize or to like make the victim into the bad guy out of things. We do have a responsibility, though. If you're going to carry a rifle, you need to make sure it's secure. So I have a truck gun, and I'll describe what I have so you guys understand it. My truck gun is locked up in the bed of my truck. You would need power tools to get it out. Dave, how many car burglaries have you had where they took the time with tools to like saw through boxes and, to get inside?
Never.
Yeah, because people are going to call the police. Even in San Francisco, somebody's going to call the auto burglary capital of America. Somebody's going to call, right? So mine is locked up. And the other thing you have to think about is you're going to lose it to evidence. And depending on where you are, that could be a long time. Okay. So I have a Knight's Armament is my primary fighting rifle. That will never end up in the back of my pickup truck. Okay. Because I'm likely to use that in a self-defense shooting. And if I lose that in a self-defense shooting, I'm probably not going to get it back for years until everything's done. And I can't afford to go buy another one. You know what I mean? And so now and that's when the lights go off and it looks like they're going to be off for the next couple of weeks. Oh, my Knight's Armament's coming out. That's my primary fighting rifle. Okay. That's going to be a little bit different, right? So in the back of my pickup, I have a Daniel Defense Mark 18. Mm-hmm. Okay. 10.5-inch barrel. I know everybody's like, dude, the 90s called. They want your 10.5-inch barrel back. I get it. Okay. I'm willing to, it's what I have, and I'm willing to lose to evidence. Okay. So I rocked a Mark 18 for a very long time. It's what I've trained with. It's what I know that, like, I don't even have to think about it. I know where everything is. I know its capabilities. I know I might have trouble penetrating a car door, so I might go through the windshield or through the side window. And I carry my war bag. That war bag I described earlier with all my pistol mags. I found civilian smoke and civilian flashbangs. Do I need those? I don't know. My daughter is also a school teacher, and we have a plan if there's an active shooter. I still have my plate carrier that says police and all. I know I'm not going to, I'm going to get busted for impersonating a police officer because I'm not the police anymore. But I also don't want to get shot by a concealed carrier, right? So if something were to happen at my daughter's school, and she's like, help, my son, who is also a former cop, we have a plan. We're going to leave wherever we're at. We're going to meet, and we're going to round up, and we're going to go figure it out from there. We're going to roll with it, right? And figure out what work needs to be done. But if work needs to be getting done, then I got my plate carrier, got my helmet, I've got my my full kit, and take care of business. One thing I would recommend for you guys with plate carriers, putting police on there or something like that is kind of a danger, double-edged sword. Be careful with that. What I would do, just get a ginormous American flag and put that on the front and the back. Some people put like civilian or like some other stuff, like that goofy stuff. Dude, just get a big American flag, and it kind of like, I don't know what it is, but I saw another civilian channel put out like that's what they do, and I'm like, dude, that's actually smart. It just gives you enough time to like, wait a minute, like just that pause.
Surely terrorists are not going to be wearing that. Like, it'd be hard to mix you up.
There's something about the American flag that just, it's good. Like you just see it and you're like, it makes you happy, and you're like, that's obviously a good guy, right?
Yeah. I need to go hug that person right now.
Dave, what do you think? Do you think that's what people should be doing with their truck gun options? Like, what's your opinion?
Yeah, be careful. When giving advice like this is difficult for me because it turns out to really be about only the top 1% of the entire shooting population is going to be in a position where they're able to appropriately handle this type of gear and be ready to use it and know what they're doing. Yep. We have, so many people that come to classes and they're just kind of, they're trying to figure out where they fall on the scale of self-defense and concealed carry and security. One end of the scale, you get people come to class and they're actually not ever going to carry a gun. We just want to know about gun safety, and they're just there to get a permit. At the other end of the scale are the people, like us, that are ready to defend our families and friends in America at any moment's notice, and we want to have those tools readily available. And we always encourage people to kind of get down to that very prepared end of the scale. A lot of people that we train and watch are just kind of starting their journey. They're just getting into guns and ammo. They don't know a whole lot yet. So sometimes I'm nervous about giving out advice on that type of equipment and those type of things. But what you described is very good information, and I would highly suggest to somebody like the people like, hey, what should I do? Offer that advice. Like, hey, here's what I do, and they can compare and contrast to what they're thinking about. I like, if you don't put the American flag patch on a plate carrier, if nothing else, get you a neon street worker vest. Something that even that in itself is like, you stand out, you're different than, somebody's probably not going to go do a school shooting wearing a neon, construction worker vest. But it makes people pause for a second, try to figure you out. That's what we want to do. You don't want to look like you blend in with the bad guys at all. And if you're just in jeans and a black t-shirt rocking an AR and you're not listening to the police when they give you commands, there's no time to wait. There's no time for a second command. Like, you had better be ready. So we're trying to give the responding cops pause to try and figure out, like, what's up with this person and what do I need to do with them.
Yeah. So I tell a lot of people too, like, I'll see guys show up to church qualifications, and they'll show up with like a Staccato XC that they spent $5,300 on. and they shoot like crap and their tactics are crap. And I will always tell them, sell that, take your $5,300 and go buy a used Glock for $350. And then I want you to buy 2,000 rounds of ammo and then go purchase a course to go learn how to work pistol and how to do tactics. And then once you've got all that down, then go buy the Staccato.
Yeah,
You know, and you're right. Well, the people will buy all sorts of guns, ammo, plate carriers, helmet. They'll spend $2,000 on a helmet and still not have one class on how to. And my department was so kind. Multiple times a year, I would go to a CQB course, close quarter battle course, hostage rescue course, rifle instructor, sniper, precision rifle instructor. Like I have so many schools, and I'm so fortunate to have had that. I could not be the tactician I am without those courses. And even for us that are instructing, we still go to courses, but we like go to the other instructor and say, hey, I want to come to your class. You can come to mine for free if you let me go to yours for free, right? We still go to courses and we still learn. And I think Dave makes a good point. Do a self-reflection. If you have minimal or no training, like you have less than 5 tactical firearms classes, you really need to be you need to be spending more money on training and pulling the trigger.
Yeah, and time on your own, man. The most important part is getting at least started with a professional instructor. Take at least one good class with a good instructor somewhere to get you down the road on the right track so that you know the right things to train. And if you get somebody good that can get you on the right track, then you can go home and 90% of your practice can be at home in your basement on your couch, just doing repetitions. People they see what we're doing. They see the self-defense world and the shooting world, and like, that's cool. I want to do that. And they just hope that through osmosis, it just somehow just sinks in because they're watching videos or listening to us. And the unfortunate part of that is it's not how it works. It just takes repetitions and time, a long time. If you think you're going to go to one concealed carry class, buy a gun and do some shooting, that this is all going to work out for you, it's just not going to. You have a false sense of security about it, and you need to start the journey. If you decided you wanted to do UFC because you watched Conor McGregor one night and thought that's cool, you cannot just go take one jitsu class and think now you've got it. It's going to be the instructor in that gym is going to say, I hope you have about 15 years of your life set aside to do this. And most people will be like, 15 years? What do you mean? Like, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. And the shooting world is not a lot different than that. Now, there are some people, I've seen some people, Keith, that come out and it's almost like they were destined to shoot a gun. Like it's been amazing. Like, and I've only seen a handful of people like that, but most people, it takes a lot of time. And so just prepare yourself, prepare to start the journey of this is going to take a while. Do this slowly, get as involved as you possibly can, and just start working your way up. It's not going to happen overnight.
All right. Good words of advice, John. I think we should, it's an hour in. Do you think I got to talk about the hospital thing, and then we should probably start winding up? What do you think?
Yep. So just a full disclosure, I actually am going to have to step out for about 10 minutes. I'm going to let you guys talk, maybe 15, and I will be right back for the wrap up. So why don't you go ahead and get into that? You guys talk. I have a child that needs to go someplace really quick. He has a basketball tournament. I know it's kind of a weird thing. We got a little late start, so I wasn't anticipating this running over, but I'm going to leave the stream live. So just stay on until I get back. All right.
Oh no, I got to talk for the whole time, dude. Make it quick. I don't know if I can talk that much.
You guys are good. So yeah, I'll be back, and then we can close it out when I get back. All right.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Let's talk about the hospital thing.
Yeah, dude. All right. So dude, what's the flag you got? EOD in the back. Is that an EOD flag in the back?
Yeah, my son is in the Air Force. He's in an EOD unit, and that's the flag. It's a flag for his unit.
Oh, that's sweet, man. That's awesome. I love it. No, I was a combat engineer, so we work with EOD a lot, and I always like seeing that stuff. All right. So let's go back to this hospital threat. I put this out on Christian Warrior Training's newsletter. for the Righteous Savages followers, essentially what I do is whenever a threat comes up, I will do an intelligence summary like the CIA would send to their people, or like law enforcement sends to their people, that just addresses everything. Command 11 is a private intelligence firm. Now, Command 11 is credible. Command 11 puts out threat data to corporations continuously. In fact, I had not personally heard of them, but the first person I talked to in the intel community, where I was like, "What's up with Command 11?" They're like, "Oh, those are good dudes. All of our people go to work for them when they get out."
Really?
And so, and I call my second friend in the intel community, same thing. Yep, we know everything about them. And so I vetted it through people that are in the intel community right now. And Command 11 put out that they had credible and imminent terrorist threat targeting hospitals in mid-tier United States cities. So it's my understanding that a lot of the people that are in these private intel firms, I only worked in law enforcement intel, but a lot of people that leave military, CIA, DIA, stuff like that, still have their contacts, that are living in Afghanistan or wherever, and then they move over to a private firm. So they put out that according to their intelligence, an attack is expected within the next 3 weeks. That is going to that's going to put us right at the end of that 3-week period, is going to put us at the end of Ramadan. So that makes sense, right? The reported method of attack is going to involve vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, or VBEDs, followed by coordinated armed assault in a hostage situation. Islamic State was going to claim that it was their responsibility. This is everything that we just talked about in the very beginning of the show.
Is this on the command? Is this on the Command 11 on their website, or where is this?
Okay. It is not on the Command 11 website. If you go over to Command 11's website, you won't see it. You have to subscribe. You have to subscribe to their, if you have the money, you have to subscribe to their intelligence. But they did put it out on their Twitter. So if you go to X and you look at Command 11 on there, they did release a lot of the information on their X, formerly known as Twitter site. I can't say X site. It doesn't sound right. I'm just going to keep saying.
Just got to go for it.
I know, dude. I don't know, man. I can't do it. It's weird. I love Elon, but it's hard for me. All right. So they corroborated. Command 11 said they corroborated this information and they released it. Look, man, this information doesn't get, if you're a big corporation like that and you've got money in these corporations, you're not going to release that, willy-nilly. Okay. There's some follow-up information to this, though. All right. So some of that key intelligence they put out, the target was going to be a hospital in a mid-tier city. It later came out that it was going to be multiple hospitals in multiple cities, right? Which is exactly what we've been talking about over, the period of this time here. Each coordinated assault was going to be 5 to 10 attackers. And again, it was going to culminate at the end. I can't pronounce the end of what the holiday is. It's the end of Ramadan, but it's called like Eid al-Fitr. I can't even say it. So other people, like we mentioned Sarah Adams earlier, Sarah Adams vouched for Command 11 and said, if they're putting it out, I would be concerned. Other intel people that I talked to have come out and told me that they are concerned because Command 11 wouldn't put it out unless it was legitimate. All right. So since then, the American Hospital Association, which is run by a bunch of communists, my opinion. All right. They put out a bulletin for their hospitals that said a Twitter person that had 4,500 followers, I can't even remember the guy's name, put out this information that hospitals are going to be attacked. And because they put out that information, we're afraid an attack might really happen. So be careful. It was the exact same information I put out there. So I like calling them minimizers. Minimizers are people that receive very horrible information that they must act upon. And they are uncomfortable with that and they don't know how to act. So they minimize it and they do the minimum and tell everybody everything's okay. I dealt with that in law enforcement forever. We would be on scene of like a multiple homicide with a barricaded suspect. People would be like, well, we don't need SWAT. We have a barricaded gunmen that killed multiple people. I know, but hold on. Let's talk to him first. No, how about we pull the lever and get everybody here and start writing warrants to get in there and start dealing with this, right? They're minimizing, right? All right. The other thing was, so they did follow up in America, and they notified hospitals. And I called my friends working in hospitals. I got a lot of family working in hospitals, and they're like, "Yep, we heard about it, and we didn't hear about it. We heard about it from you, but then we heard about it from the hospital like 5 days later. They're already 2 weeks into this 3-week period, right? So it actually ends. I think it ends Monday is when the period ends. Homeland Security sent a bulletin to a couple of churches that were in their group. And Homeland Security said, this threat isn't real and that you don't have anything to worry about. And the churches contacted me saying, should we believe this? No, don't believe it. Don't believe it at all. Just ignore what they're putting out, right? That's my view. I say because Homeland Security got upped by Command 11, and that's embarrassing.
Yep.
I don't know. What's your view, Dave?
Yeah, there's always a lot more political stuff going on behind the scenes and administrative stuff that kind of drives where this stuff goes. I will say in our community, at least I know the hospital in Carbondale does a pretty good job of staying on top of security issues. They're doing a lot of active shooter training. They're meeting with Carbondale PD like once a month. They're trying to do the best thing they can do for the safety of their facility. But it's, when you talk about, who's in charge of your hospital or your police department or your city or county or university. I'll tell you who does a lot of minimizing are universities. Holy smokes. If there's a sexual assault on campus, the university's like, well, we're going to call the city police and have them take it. That way it doesn't show up on our stats as having a rape. And that way people keep coming to school here. So you can see how things get minimized, not just in that university setting, but any type of threat. I mean, the hospital needs people coming to the hospital to stay open and to make money. So of course they're going to minimize to the public. Oh, everything's fine. Security's on it. But you got some pretty good information here. And so it's something you definitely have to take serious.
And I know people are like, well, you're a Christian channel. What is, I'm here for, I did get an angry email from somebody. I mean, we have 40,000 email recipients, right? One guy took time out to chastise me. Like, I'm not here to hear about hospitals. This is a waste. Well, no, it's not a waste. Because the intelligence that we got sorry, I'm pointing to my intelligence bulletin up there. If people wonder what I'm doing. So the intelligence bulletin clearly outlines how they're going to attack the hospital. You should take that and think what ISIS, who's going to claim responsibility for this, has said attack churches. How am I going to prepare my church for this type of attack? With somebody rolling up in a V-bed to the front door, detonating it, while 5 to 10 attackers come in the other door and start slaughtering everybody with AK-47s full. Like, you need to look up the Beslan attack in Beslan, Russia, and how Islamic terrorists took over a school and set up pressure-plated IEDs. They set up, they had AK-47s, full auto, and body-worn IEDs. And they took over and took hostages and made it a big deal over days while everybody was dying inside. These attacks happen continuously. We have intel they're going to happen here. Do I think that a hospital attack is going to happen now? Man, no, their operation got blown. They
want surprise for sure. And here's the other thing that people try to do. Everybody tries to game their life. Like, I wonder what's really going to be dangerous for me today. And do I need my gun where I'm going? And so they try to figure it out. Like, well, I got to go to Lowe's to get a 2x4 real quick. I'm in my basketball shorts. I probably don't need my gun right now. Or I'm going to the gas station on the bad side of town at 1 a.m. to get me something to drink. I better grab my gun. People try to figure out, like, I wonder if the next hour of my life is going to be so dangerous that I need a gun. The problem is, if, as a law enforcement officer, if you were to ask every victim of a violent assault, did you know an hour before you came here that something was going to happen to you? none of them would have said, "Oh yeah, I knew this was going to be sketchy." Like they don't say that very often. Nobody can figure it out. Things happen at 1 a.m. They happen at high noon. They happen at 8 in the morning. It's
Yep.
very difficult for you to figure out your life and figure out when and where the bad thing is going to happen. Like, yeah, you might think hospitals, like, what are we talking about hospitals for? Well, you might be in a car wreck. You might be in one in an hour, or Aunt Susie might break a hip and you're going to go visit her, or you just might be driving past one on the way to Walmart. You know, you could find yourself anywhere, anytime. It's kind of the whole reason why we carry all the time. It's like putting your seatbelt on in your car. It's on so that it's ready to protect you when you start rolling down the hill. You don't have to try and reach for the seatbelt as you're about to get flung out of your car. It's on already. Same thing about being prepared with your firearms, being prepared mentally, like all the stuff we do it ahead of time and use it all the time. So it's right there ready for you for a tool to use. And so don't ever think that a certain place is less important. Like, well, what about schools or what about churches? Like, yeah, that's all. It's all everything is important. This stuff could happen anywhere, any place, anytime. You know, we see nowadays in our little town, you know, crime doesn't just happen at 1 a.m. in crack alley in the bad neighborhood. You know, these people's every 15-year-old wants to be a gangbanger these days. They're playing Call of Duty all day long, so they cannot wait to shoot something or somebody.
Yep.
So we see all these drive-bys that happen at gas stations at noon. You could be pumping gas, the next thing you know, you're in the middle of gangbangers with AKs shooting it out. Like that could happen
Yeah.
any place. So don't try to game your life and figure out where the dangerous places are or when it's most likely going to happen. Just assume it could happen anywhere.
I remember there was a highway patrolman that made a stop in my city, and he was just going to give the guy a ride. And he rolled up, and he's like, "Hey, let's get you off the highway. It's a 10 lane. The highway going. It's an interstate going through our city. That's 10 lanes with a pretty decent sized median because there's going to be a commuter train going down the middle at some point in the future." And he ended out attacking the officer, pulled out a handgun, shoved it up in his face, and shot. And the officer fell down the embankment, and they rolled down the hill together. The officer grabbed the suspect, and they both fell down together. At that moment when he got shot, I'm not kidding, there were 4 off-duty cops that were all passing by in different directions at the same time. And you do what I do when you see a cop on a stop. I always look to make sure he's okay. Even in retirement, I can't help it, right?
Yep.
They all slammed on the brakes, and 2 of them played Frogger. If you remember the old game of like jumping across the cars, 2 of them on a 10-lane interstate are playing Frogger to run across, right? When we get there, we roll up, and I mean, because somebody got on the radio, an officer, "Hey, you have an officer down. He's been shot," and it's a random citizen. It turned out it was an off-duty cop. As I roll up, I remember seeing this cop trying to figure out how to get the shotgun out of the rack, because if you've never seen CHP, like they've got this whole system. It's very hard to get I don't know what button to get the shotgun out of the rack, and he's trying to get it out. And I remember looking at the guy thinking, like, he looks like a cop, like, and come up and he's like, "Oh, I'm a cop." And I'm like, "Okay, like, keep figuring it out." He's like, "Down there." We go down there, and these 3 off-duty cops are just beating the crap out of this suspect. And you see the officer shot on the ground, and they all like see me and they throw their hands up, and I'm like, "Keep going." Right. And, long story short is I'm thankful that 4 off-duty cops passed by at the same time. Last year, one of our deputies here in Idaho got shot and killed. And he was actually, he was one of the students he was a student of mine at one time for a class back in California because he was a California cop and then came here. He got shot and killed on a car stop. And it happened, I want to say it is busy time. And there wasn't one citizen that came out to shoot that guy and to stop him. He actually got out of the car at one point or something. And I thought to myself, man, this is Idaho. How did nobody stop and shoot that guy? And it's probably because like, oh, I'm just going, I'm going to the store. I'm going wherever. I leave my house Like I'm going to have a gunfight for my life right now. And people are like, well, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, man, carrying a gun is uncomfortable. I don't pick a gun for the outfit I want to wear. I pick an outfit to wear for the gun I'm going to carry. Right. So I wear I mean, I'm not very stylish. I'm wearing my Carhartt sweater because I can carry a Staccato XC, a very huge 2011 underneath. I can carry a Glock 34 under this thing. During the summertime, yeah, man, I wear a very baggy button-down shirt to hide my gun. And does it rub against my skin because I'm getting a little bit bigger in retirement? Yeah, man, it rubs me raw. But it's better than getting a bullet wound in my stomach. You know what I mean?
Like Clint Smith from Thunder Ranch says, it's not supposed to be comfortable carrying a gun. It's supposed to be comforting, knowing that you have a tool there to protect yourself. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You just got to get over that and just prepare yourself. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And man, we just need so many people to take that mindset. And if we did, we wouldn't have just 4 cops rolling up. We would have 40 and, or 40 armed civilians. And maybe that wouldn't have stopped that officer from getting shot. But man, we just need to have that mindset of just of swarming, being able to at any moment where a lot of trained people show up to stop problems. And that's when we roll back into the terrorist stuff. The terrorist attacks aren't real quick hits. They're not, hey, let's go in here, shoot 5 people, kill myself, and the thing's over. These terrorist attacks, I mean, you look at October the 7th, man, this thing went on for hours and hours of actually a few days worth of terrorist stuff going on. And for us to think that that will never happen in the United States, as cops looking around at all the possibilities of what terrorists could do, for me and you were like, I can't believe this didn't happen 20 years ago.
Right.
Every day I'm like, I cannot believe this hasn't happened yet. So to think, well, this will never happen here, to me, I'm like, I can't believe it hasn't happened already.
Dude, 100%. I remember you were working on 9/11 like I was. Like, when 9/11 happened, we started getting all the intelligence out about that these attacks were going to happen. And we've been told that forever, and it just hasn't happened. I think it's been because we just have good cops that are working good cases, good intelligence officers getting good intel, and they've been right 100% of the time. But somebody's going to slip through. We were asleep. We were asleep at the wheel for 4 years, and a lot of bad people came in.
Man, yeah, that's a scary thought. You think about just the video every day of looking at these people from Turkey and China and Afghanistan, and you name it. People just like, how do these people get here? Do you think really just a couple dudes in the middle of Pakistan decided, hey, let's move to America, and got on a plane and flew to Mexico, and they got a ride from some cartels? Somebody's financing that. It's not just people making a life choice like, honey, let's sell our house in Uzbekistan and move to America, and somehow we'll sneak in and things will be fine. That is not what's happening. That is not at all what's going on.
So you talk about these people coming in. It's not just the terrorists too, but so I was a gang sergeant, and even though I'm retired, I still remember all the tattoos. I still read tattoos and do all that. I was in a Hawaiian barbecue place here in Meridian, Idaho, picking up my Hawaiian barbecue, chill. I was just going to chill and have something to eat on a busy day. And there's an MS-13 gang member walking in the door. He's got his MS-13 gang tat on his neck. He's got his tattoos on his bald head. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, dude, I'm in Idaho. Why are you here? Right. And then I started like staring at him, and he looks at me and does the, what, like where they throw their chest, like, what? And I was like, so I start I walked a little closer. Sorry for the Christians. By mouth, fuck no. While I looked at him, and I could tell he was looking like, man, he's got some old man energy. Like, you could tell it was like he was going to chest me a little bit. Like, what are you looking at? And it's like, I'm down. And my favorite thing is when people want to fight, I love telling this. I'm like, hey, bro, there is no doubt you're going to kick my ass and put me in the hospital. You're going with me. And then everybody kind of looks like, well, wait a minute, he's willing to take a butt whooping, but like, there's going to be a cost, right? And he ended up not ordering and left, right? And I think because but it's like, dude, you're displaying Look at Michael. Old man strength is real. It is. It is. It's you know,
Yeah.
I think people need to be ready for everything, right? Like I was just picking up Hawaiian barbecue. Am I willing to take on an MS-13 gang member? Man, if I was in California, no, man, I don't care. California earned that guy. But I'm in Idaho. We don't want him here. And, you need to go, bro. Go back to where you came from.
And this can happen anywhere. I mean, just like you said, an MS-13 gang member walks in, you're like out of nowhere. Back when I was going to school at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale back in 1993, I think that 93 was the first World Trade Center bombing. And when they started investigating, they found one of the guys, his name was Ramzi Youssef. He was one of the main suspects in that bombing. He had been hanging out in Carbondale, Illinois for a while.
Really?
And FBI was like, hey, we need to find people that he was buddies with. You're like, this is crazy. Like, what was this person ever doing or having any friends in little Carbondale, Illinois? Like, so you think, well, this will never happen to me. That was a perfect example of like, I don't think they were planning on blowing up the university, but they were there. They could have been stopped at any moment in time with explosives or guns or who knows what. You never know when you're going to cross paths with these people. So you just got to be diligent all the time. This could happen anytime, anywhere.
Dude, look at Timothy McVeigh blowing up the federal building in Oklahoma City, stopped by a state trooper just after. Yeah. He had no idea. He just stopped a guy that mass murdered a bunch of people and killed a bunch of children, in an explosive attack. You're right. You don't know what's coming, man. I think so when you look at the hospital intel, I really think you need to take it seriously that it could it's perfect. We're just wrapping up, brother. Welcome back. All right. So when you look at the hospital attack info, you should be looking at, well, now they got burned on hospitals. They're going to have to readjust and hit something else. They're probably not going to hit a hospital now. They got burned and they're going to go to ground and start hiding because they know they've been burned. And so that means they've got to pick a new target, new location. That could be your church, your mall, your schools. We don't know what it's going to be, but a lot of people are here for church security, right? You need to make sure that your church is taking it seriously. All right, John.
Yeah. So, what are some, we always want to give like marching orders and that kind of thing for people as we, both of our audiences are, I think the demographics that we appeal to are people that are more in tune with what's going on in the world. And so a couple of things I think we need to talk about, what are some practical steps people can do in their communities, in their churches. Maybe your church doesn't have a security team, or maybe it's, Floyd Leon with his, 38 special. And because he has a concealed carry permit, he is the security team. And I know that, Keith, you run a very robust security team at your church, which is a larger church, but some practical steps for how we have that awareness level in our churches. And really, then we can talk about the personal side of things, training that people should be getting. And we've got a couple of things that we'll talk about as well. I'm going to announce something that's coming in the next month today for people that may not be able to, get out to a range or may not have a training company close to them to where they can get with some stuff that we actually have coming down the pike that will help the everyday people learn gun and firearm tactics and things like that. So let's start with church security teams and what people should do in their communities and in their churches to raise awareness and to build those layers of security.
All right. Perfect example that you can use right now is if you go to christianwarriortraining.com, there's an article entitled "It'll Never Happen Here." And that's an interview with the pastor of a church in Sulphur Springs, Texas, where we had the biggest mass shooting of a church ever in history. 40-something people were shot. Over 20 people were killed, including this pastor's daughter. And he talks about how the day before he had a conversation with an NRA instructor. The NRA instructor was pressing, you need a church security team. And his quote was, I have a small church. It'll never happen here. And then the very next day, less than 12 hours later, guy came in and shot up the church and killed a bunch of people. Go watch that video, listen to his story. That it'll never happen here is ridiculous. Like, this pastor's awesome. He acknowledges, like, we had a plan, 2 guys we always carried. We had a plan if the guy ever came. And he's like, that plan wouldn't work and didn't work. First thing you need to do is you need to organize. You need to start, get with your pastoral group and start talking about how this is for the bottom thing to do. And then go to ChristianWarriorTraining.com. I have all the resources you need for free to take care to get your church security team set up. Okay. If you want to do a paid membership, that helps me greatly to enhance what we're doing here. It allows me to concentrate on this full time. If you don't do it because you can't afford it, don't worry about it. Go there and get the stuff for free. No big deal. For those of you that have established teams, you need to make sure that you train, and then you keep training after that. Don't buy more equipment, invest in training.
Yep.
Training is better than top tier equipment. If you have top tier equipment but don't train, that's not going to do anything. You need to train at a minimum as a team 4 hours every month at a minimum. If you do more than that, that's great, but you're going to burn people out if you do too much. Okay. Personally, though, like, you're on a church security team, you need to spend a minimum of 4 hours at the range every month shooting, moving, and doing, not like sitting at like my friend, I saw him yesterday. I hope he's not watching. He was sitting at the bench rest and he's just like sitting there on a bag shooting a pistol for accuracy. And I'm like, bro, that, like, in my mind, I was like, that's not how accuracy is. Accuracy is you just ran a mile to get your heart rate up, did a bunch of push-ups so your arms are all wobbly and they don't work. And then now you're shooting for accuracy, right? That's how you get going for church security teams. That's what they need to do. Oh, biggest things, 4K video system, burglar, fire alarm. Having all those are the biggest things that you're going to need for security. Those cameras are a force multiplier. You can park one person at the cameras and monitor everything, except the only exception is if you have an open door, there needs to be a security team member at that door. So if you only have one team member on that day, then you only have one door open. If you've got 2, then 2. And you need to stand outside the door in the parking lot side, right? Oh,
so
I see that
comment here. Yep.
We don't want to appear unwelcoming. That's fine, man. My church, we have 100 security team members, and you cannot tell they're there. Okay, they look like if people will come up to me and it's awkward. I don't know how to deal with this yet. People will walk up and I'll be like, hey, welcome to the church, and they're like, yeah, I watch your YouTube channel, always be caring. And I'm just like, oh, hey, like, I still don't know how to respond. It's weird. You can still do it. I love talking to you guys, but it's weird. But like, if you don't know me and you come up, I'm like, hey, welcome to the church. Let me open the door for you. Right. What am I doing? I'm in plain clothes. Everybody knows I'm on the security team that goes to the church, but the people who don't go to the church, I call it enhanced greeter. Right. I'll open the door because I deal with we don't want to appear unwelcoming. I deal with that every single meeting. My pastor is watching this. Jason, I love you, brother. Thank you for fighting the good fight. But he deals with the same thing. Like, I don't want to appear unwelcoming. We're all dealing with it, brother.
Yeah. Do we say that when we see a rattlesnake? Oh, I don't want to appear unwelcoming.
It's valid. It's valid. In my videos, I say, don't stand in front of your church with AR-15s. Like, you just need to work harder as a person. Right. And I agree with that. I don't want you to appear unwelcoming. I want you, like, you can be in a uniform. I think uniforms are essential. My church won't let us do it. Most of your churches won't let you do it either. That's okay. Work around it. Figure it out. Okay. But even if you are in uniform, you just want to be like, hey, welcome to the church. It's wonderful to see you. And most Americans are going to be like, thank God they have security.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dave, you want to add anything to that? And then we'll move on to wrapping everything up.
No, but it's a great start. Please, if you haven't checked out Christian Warrior training.com, go check that out. Just a plethora of good information. So I would definitely start there if you're just scratching the surface and interested in doing that. And at the same time, continue your research and training on what it takes to be effective and efficient with a firearm to defend yourself and your family. Uh, Join a range if you got one nearby. Like he says, buy ammo, don't buy gear. And get out and start your journey. Start connecting with people that have experience. It doesn't mean that everybody that was ever a cop is good at teaching you how to shoot a gun. It does, that isn't always
Yeah.
the way.
Yep.
But start finding out. It's funny. You go to a local gun range and start talking to people, and it's usually a good community, a good climate of like-minded people, and you'll start figuring out who's legit and who's not, and just start seeking out to be a better performer at what you do when it comes to defending your family, yourself, the country, all that.
Yep.
Awesome.
And a couple of other things real quick, just some notes. If you have an established team, but there are some other things that you can consider. Myself, I actually am a worship leader at my church that I go to on the praise team. So I'm carrying all of the time. I know all of our security team, and having somebody on the stage to be able to see the opposite view from the audience is a huge thing. I have a couple of pastor friends of mine that they're carrying when they're preaching on Sunday mornings. Yep. And somebody asked about a vest earlier. We do have a company that we collaborate with called Maverick Tactical, and they make some really awesome. They're good for handguns. They won't actually stop a rifle round, but they're very discreet vests that go underneath your clothing. If you guys go over there and check them out, you can get 10% off of your order using Savages 10. I promised I wouldn't do that again, but somebody asked about it, and I wanted to just give them that little tidbit of information. It's a great company, and they're also Christians, very strong Christians. They have a Bible verse underneath their logo. Really, really awesome people.
Awesome.
And we're good friends with them, and all of their stuff is made in the U.S. except for one piece of armor. They make it all in-house, and it's all NIJ tested and all of that stuff. So really awesome stuff. But that's key. And also, like what Keith said, having somebody integrated with the greeting team, that's a way to not appear unwelcoming. Make sure you don't pick the dude that's the stoic guy that won't talk to anybody, but make sure he's a welcoming person. But having somebody on each one of those teams, embedded in those teams, is another really important thing. This has been an awesome conversation. I think you guys, obviously, the decades of experience that you guys have. Sorry, had to jab. You guys are probably both a little older than me, but not by much. I am grateful that we have men like you see on the panel here that are willing to sound the alarm. They're willing to stand in the gap, who are willing to give you guys this information. And some of you guys out there, you may be interested in furthering your training. And I'm going to just drop this as a little teaser. We have a series coming out of videos we've been recording over the last few weeks called Gun Workouts. The whole idea of this is not to give you guys just, do this drill and you'll be fine. It is actually to give you guys real, actual progressions you can go to improve your shooting, like you were working with an instructor on the range. That series is coming out in mid-April. And you can see that it's going to be a lot of episodes. They won't be a really hard watch because they're, shorter videos, 10 to 15 minutes, but it's a practical thing that we can give you guys. And we're going to ramp them up. We're going to get, as Keith was saying, to the point where you're raising your heart rate and you're trying to actually judge your ability to do that. So that's something that Righteous Savages is bringing out in the upcoming weeks and months. And we hope you guys will check those out. Check out all of our social medias as well. We have a lot of things in the works that are coming out, and we're going to be doing a lot more things like this as well. We have some guests coming into our podcast, and who knows? Maybe we can talk Keith into doing another live stream every once in a while with us. Seems like we got a good vibe here. So appreciate everybody stopping by. So check us out, and also, one of the main reasons we did this. We were originally going to stream on Substack and then on YouTube, and we had the issues with Substack. But this is really for you guys to join our Substack, as we're going to be putting out a lot more of this information, like the article that we talked about today. also things on training and what it means to really unleash what is in all of us as a protector and a warrior to stand on the wall when no one else wants to. So thank you guys very much for joining us today, and God bless you guys, and God bless America.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.